Commence primary ignition.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
What a piece of junk.
Enterprise, this is the captain.
I have a bad feeling about this.
It's all part of the plan.
Engage.
Welcome back to Podcast 2 for 1. I'm your host, Donovan Thompson, with my co-host,
Daniel Wingfield.
In today's episode 189 of Podcast 2 for 1, youtube.com/2for1 studios. It's the best place to consume all the content. And if you didn't know, and listeners, you probably did not, we are sponsored by Capel Comics, located at 4047 East Cole Avenue in Sherwood, Arkansas. That they have comic books, collectibles, graphic novels, and of course, special guest appearances throughout the year.
Capel.
Daniel, surprisingly, I thought we were done for the year 2023, but I think we will squeeze in one more before the first.
Why not?
Why not? Yeah, why not? And honestly, I thought that it was Thursday. I just looked at it's Friday. That tells you how fucked up I am right now.
Yeah.
Yep. Anyway, listeners, it's still 2023 as we roll into 2024, and we thought it'd be cool to hit 190 at 2024. So we're episode 189 today, and we are talking an older show that came out earlier this year. I think we talked about it an episode or two ago in terms of like some of our favorite viewing experiences, and it was Succession, right?
Yeah.
And I might need a little refresher, Daniel, but I did some reading last night, and I was very happy to learn that you and Kat had decided to start it and then proceed through it. It sounds like you got through it pretty quick. So kind of tell me your journey with it.
Yeah, I mean, we watched it probably in a little over a month, maybe about a month. I don't know.
It's pretty good.
It's fantastic. Yeah, no, so it ended in like early summer, I want to say. Maybe it was like a spring show almost.
Yeah, it was like, I think the same weekend like Ted Lasso ended and Succession ended and something else ended
like Barry
too.
too, maybe. Was that around that time?
It may have been. It was a big weekend for me. I remember that.
Yeah. So like we had started it a while back and just kind of drifted off, and then wanted to restart it and just hit the ground running and didn't stop till it was over. I thought it was amazing. You know, and I think we've talked in the past about the HBO level of quality when it just comes to writing and telling good stories about interesting characters, and just especially on the small screen on TV, there's nobody really better than HBO, especially in terms of consistency. You know, AMC, it had Breaking Bad and it had Better Call Saul, but I mean, other than that, what, The Walking Dead? No one's parading that around with writing accolades.
I think Breaking Bad could be the greatest show of all time, and I've never once thought of AMC as a contender for best channel or anything like that.
Or like you never really expect them to do it again. You don't expect them to do another Breaking Bad. I mean, they did have Mad Men. Okay.
Better Call Saul is also, I think, one of the greatest TV shows of all time, if not equal to Breaking Bad.
It's like AMC, which, Mad Men was actually rejected at HBO before it went to AMC. I don't know if you knew that.
It feels like an HBO show too.
In some ways you almost wish it was, because it would have benefited from like the lack of
100%.
being on AMC. You have to have I think it could have used HBO's kind of like even just use of nudity and use of more hardcore language to be, I don't know, even a little bit more, I don't know, more visceral. But yeah, going back to Succession, it absolutely is just the next in the line of the Sopranos and the Wires and the Boardwalk Empires and the Game of Thrones, and just this an all-star cast with impeccable writing and a really interesting core idea. And it just, it was a roller coaster, man. It's only 4 seasons. You only get, at most 10 episodes a season. I think even season 2 is 9, I want to say. So like not a very long show, right? Pretty short show, but just the roller coaster that you go on with each of these characters individually, and we can get into it, I think it was just fantastic. And just, it made me want to, even though we're late to the game, wanted to take some time to talk about it, because I think it's pretty spectacular, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, no, I mean, I somewhat similar situation. I believe I was still with Katie when I started watching it. And I think we watched like maybe the first few episodes and we stopped. And then and I wanted to keep watching, but she wasn't as invested or whatever. And then we broke up, and then I was like, I think I'm going to watch this show in my downtime now. And
Sure.
so I started powering through it, and then I think I was concurrent with it as season 3 was airing.
Okay.
And then yeah, season 4 come on, and I was just foaming at the mouth. And also I knew that it was going to be the last season. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of our conversation will be kind of talking about the series as a whole, and specifically the last season, and just kind of giving it, all the accolades, so to speak.
Sure.
So I think, first of all, I don't know. I'm pulling up the information now. The writer, the showrunner of the show, um, it is, I guess, Jesse Armstrong, who is, I
Mm,
believe, the writer of the show. He is just phenomenal. The way he can craft characters, the dialect is pretty impeccable. And I told you privately that I went to a Barnes Noble a couple weeks ago, Christmas shopping, and I stumbled into the movie section, of course, and there was the entire fourth season screenplay, like the teleplay.
oh yeah.
And so I started I was like, man, like this is the whole thing here, and it's not that
Yeah.
big and it's not that expensive. And I was like, I just want to see the dialogue. I want to see what this guy writes. And so I just went to
Yeah.
the very last scene, and I watched I read the boardroom scene when they're all in there
Mm,
privately,
mm-hmm.
and kind of basically when he says, like, it's mine, like I deserve it or whatever.
Yeah.
And I read that all the way to the final shot of the show, because I wanted to see like what
Yeah.
also was the writer's interpretation of it, and like that I put
Right.
something on there that wasn't there. But just overall, just talking about the dialect, it's I don't think I could ever write like that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Like, it is so well done and so real.
It's
It's
very
very
Sorkin,
it's very
right?
intimidating. Yeah.
It's very Sorkin, or even like Gilmore Girls. Like you have these characters that are just like talking over each other constantly,
It's
right?
Sorkin, but it's chaotic Sorkin, where
Yeah.
it almost feels like
It's
they're
it.
ad-libbing, and like but like all the ums, the uhs, all that's in the
Yeah.
dialogue, that's in there.
Really.
You know what I mean?
No,
Like it,
yeah, I
yeah,
mean, no, I mean, I agree. It is Sorkin with a more chaotic Sorkin, right? Because Sorkin,
yeah.
he does have that, but it also is kind of smooth and slick, and there's this kind of, the walk and talks he always does, and then, it always kind of has the characters seeming cool, and in this show, it seems chaotic, and it has the characters sometimes feeling unhinged in the way that they communicate
Mhm.
with each other, or just really dysfunctional. Um, yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
I agree. I think, there's so many intense scenes, and like it's all just dialogue scenes. You
mm,
know what I'm saying? And
yeah.
in fact, there's some interesting parallels between this and Oppenheimer, another, amazing piece of cinema, big screen cinema that came out this year that is essentially a talking movie, right?
Mm.
It's essentially people in rooms talking. That is the 90% of the movie, and yet it is gripping. And at least I found it very gripping. And I think, in a different way, Succession is the same thing, where it's just a show about people talking. And it's a very different tone than success than I think Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer has this like grand, poetic feeling to everything, and you're kind of jumping between time jumps to kind of compare and contrast things. Where Succession, it just feels like it feels like real life in the way that people talk over each other, in the way that awkward conversations get had. There's so many amazing conversations between Shiv and Tom, her husband.
I
There's
love
so
Tom.
many amazing, yeah, me too. And Tom and Greg are just fantastic, right? But there's so many
It's
amazing conversations they
so
have where
abusive.
that just it just turns on its head all of a sudden, and it's just this incredibly awkward thing, or like someone's confessing feelings and the other one is pretending to agree with them or whatever. And I just think, man, it's pretty incredible, the different kinds of familial relationships this show explored. Husband and wife, lots of fathers and sons, some mom and kids kind of stuff. And it's all just so nuanced, right? I mean, like, for one minute you believe Rome, or you believe that why can't I remember the dad's name? It's not Roman. It's
Yeah, it's Brian Cox's character, right?
yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think.
Logan Roy. Logan Roy.
Logan Roman. Okay. Logan, you know, one minute you really believe he's, you know, being an affectionate father, and the next minute you're pretty sure he was just manipulating them. You know what I'm saying? And like you're kind of constantly questioning your own interpretation of what you're seeing. At the same time, the characters are. You know, there's the whole season where Shiv, I think it's season 2 or 3, where Shiv is being considered, you know, is under the impression that she's going to be the one, right? And it's like this, you know, she's constantly like, wait, you did say this, right? And like, am I still going to be the one? And then, you know, she kind of messes up that big negotiation with Pierce, that other broadcast company they want, and like they're in that meeting, she's like, it's me, and like she announces it to everyone, and like the look he gives her, and just, man, it's so, everything is so complex in the show. Nothing is black and white. There aren't really any good characters. There are a lot of complex and maybe even some bad characters, or people that I would say, you know, have questionable morals. But there's no white knights. There's nobody you truly root for. Everybody that is kind of innocent, even like Greg, who kind of starts the show as this kind of innocent, like the perspective of a normal person. You know, like anything comes up and he's like, wait, that's horror. Like, you know, he kind of has the reaction that like normal people would have to like things. Like,
he's like quadruple crossing by the end of it. Like
right,
quadruple.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At the end, he's just playing everything, and he's just this total, you know, corrupt, you know, capitalist ladder climber. And so, man, yeah, I know I just rambled for a bit, but I think
I mean, again,
the show, if I could give it a word, it's like complex. Everything is complex. Everything is layered. Nothing is black and white. And like that is, I don't think ever been more true than maybe in a show like Succession.
I do think I mean, just objectively speaking, I think it is probably one of the best shows of all time. And just, I don't know a you know, episode where it's like, it's not gripping, or it's not doing something somewhere where I'm like, man, and it's also, it does that smart thing where it's short, it's contained, it's not super long, it doesn't outstay its welcome, and it's not afraid to take risk also. And that's one of the kind of big ones I want to start out here with season 4, Daniel, is episode 3.
Yeah.
Spoilers, everyone. Logan Roy dies.
Yeah.
And the show is called Succession. And was there ever a part of you where like the last episode is Logan Roy crowning somebody officially, or did you expect Logan to die at some point?
You know, so I actually did get it unfortunately spoiled for me a little bit, just being on the internet. I knew there was a big twist in episode 3, and then I kind of got it spoiled what happened. But it was still, I mean, even just in learning it, it was a surprise, I think, to a degree. But at the same time, you know, it's interesting because the show starts with Logan showing signs of like,
more than signs. He's in the hospital.
Yeah, he's in the hospital. And then also he has those moments where he's kind of having these mental lapses, whether it's in judgment or memory. And so like you start the show with this kind of narrative, like he is on his way out physically. He can't handle this really anymore. And that's the reason, you know, the succession is happening. And then I feel like that plot kind of goes away for 2 seasons in a way. In
season 3, it feels like he's his most strongest in places. Yeah. It's like he's the most competent, he's the most ruthless, he's like, don't fuck with him. And then it's like, oh, then but I kind of almost feel like that's kind of like real life. You know,
I agree, and I absolutely want to say I love how they handled the death episode in that it was all handled from the kids' perspectives, for one, and I thought that felt good. They're
trying to get on the phone, they're on the plane.
Right,
I mean, it just feels, I mean, it's heartbreaking too, but also, yeah.
But I also love that we didn't have this kind of melodramatic, drawn out moment of like Logan's last breaths and what he says on his deathbed, like that, you know, he doesn't have a rosebud moment, you know, right? He doesn't say something cryptic or like, you know,
again, it's real, you know, it's like,
it's just,
it happens short,
it's fast. Over, and you didn't even have a chance to really say goodbye.
Right. Which is real life.
Yeah. It reminded me a lot of my own experience losing a parent. And so I thought that was just really wonderfully handled. And I think it made sense, right? I think yes, the show is about Logan Roy and, how in kind of his relationship with his kids, but at the end of the day, it is Succession. It's about who's next. You know what I mean? And I think it worked because it removed kind of this giant presence from the show. Like Logan Roy had this giant presence in the life of his kids and in the company. He just loomed over everyone and everything. And so when that's removed immediately, then there's this vacuum, and it created this, I think, very interesting situation where now you have these employees like Jerry, the CEO, and Frank and Carl are now out kind of vying for their own power. Like, Jerry got fired by Roman like minutes before Logan died, but it was never official, really. So like I think it made it really interesting, because then it became all about the kids. It's not about dad anymore. He's gone. Now it's about who's going to step up, who's going to find a way into power, etc. And I think that worked well.
I always kind of felt like the show, I mean, was Roy, or was, what's it, Roy? What's his name?
Logan.
Not Logan, but what's the main
Roman?
character's name?
Oh, Kendall.
Kendall. Okay, Kendall Roman. Okay. So I always feel like it's Kendall's show, because he was kind of carrying the torch. He was the original successor. He's the guy who, if there is anyone in the company, it would be Kendall, in my opinion, right? It's one of those things where, I don't know. I never considered Logan as the main character. I was kind of considered Kendall's main character, and it created a vacuum, right? And it totally changed the show. But then every not unimportant thing, but even just the funeral, like announcing to the public he's gone, the funeral, all these things, and they're so huge now. And not just because it's big for our characters, which it is, but because each moment is a chance for every one of these characters to get another leg up in the ultimate end game, and how they're going to navigate that and manipulate everybody to their advantage. And it's so good. It's crazy good. I mean, it is crazy good.
It's interesting you saying that Kendall is the main character, and I think I agree, but I almost feel like the moral, or like the lesson that Kendall learns through the show, is that he's not the main character of life, in a way. Or like it's almost this, like, I feel like
I'm not sure he learned it.
Well, I mean, I think he does, because he's forced to learn it. He doesn't get what he wants, and he's left again staring off into the sea, kind of like lost in his own defeat. He's defeated, and maybe you're right, maybe he doesn't realize it, but in some ways I feel like this show was like, you're right, we start with Kendall, who seems like this obvious choice, right? He's got all this experience, he talks, he looks, he walks like a CEO, he can make the hard decisions, and he can do all these things that feel Logan-esque, right? And then when he doesn't get it, but then especially like at the end of season 1, with what happens with that, like, the car accident with the kid, the waiter kid, and then in season 2, where he's now just kind of his dad's lackey, who doesn't seem to have an opinion anymore. It's kind of subverting. It's like, oh, here's the main character, but actually, and then in some ways I feels like season 1 is Kendall's season. Season 2 is Shiv's season. That's the season where she thinks she's now in chart, in line. And then season 3 in some ways is Roman's, right? Where he's starting to kind of lead the charge on certain things. And, he's being, his dad's putting more faith into him. And then this last season is kind of like, well, whose show is it really? And it ends up being, none of them. And I guess like Shiv is the closest to power, but only because Tom is now the CEO and she's married to Tom, and they've decided
I think Shiv is like in the worst position out of all 3 of them. I think she gets the worst position.
Maybe. I guess.
Well,
but she's
no, like, to me, like her touching Tom's hand, that's like the equivalent of The Graduate, but like 15 billion times worse, where the Graduate, right, where they're on the bus, he gets the girl, and he's like, oh shit, what do I actually in for now that I've got what I wanted? And to be fair, she didn't get what she wanted, and she's also stuck in the situation. Now she's pregnant, and then she's with Tom, who has all the power, which is, I think, kind of incredible that he ends up getting it.
I'm not convinced she didn't actually want to be with Tom. I actually kind of see their story as being like, I think she's actually happiest with him, and like loves him even more than maybe she realizes, kind of thing. And so
sure. Here's the thing. I think it's obviously more complex than I'm labeling it. I just don't see how any relationship would ever be successful knowing what I saw in those 4 seasons
Sure. Yeah,
and
it would be
knowing
tough.
how I didn't never see a
Yeah.
version where Shiv is making great choices for, you know what I'm saying? Like
Sure.
the only thing she might have done, but it feels like it's more out of spite than anything, was not let Roy or Kendall have the thing at the end, right? She could
Sure.
have. She could have, but it's more out of spite, I think, and maybe she just truly feels like he doesn't deserve it. I don't know, but I don't think the
Yeah.
relationship is going to work out. It's like kind of like House of Cards situation now. It's like they probably both hate each other. Tom obviously still has feelings for her and everything else, but I don't know how you can ever come back in that kind of relationship. I don't know how you come back from that. I
Yeah.
couldn't,
Yeah. I
and
know.
I'm a pretty forgiving person.
Sure. Yeah. No, it would be tough. I mean, who knows? Maybe they need to like write an epilogue book about everything. But yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's a testament to the show that I think, and to the complexity and to the nuance that's on display here, that we can kind of come away with different and yet
Sure.
very believable and I would guess say like reasonable, you know, impressions of it, right? Like
Yeah.
how you interpret it makes complete sense. And I think there's also a version where, you know, me interpreting them, I kind of thought she was in some ways the happiest with the ending out of the development, because Roman and Kendall
I think it's. I think
didn't
it's.
get what they wanted. They
I think the
didn't
happiest
get part
is.
of the company, and they're now out. They get the payout, but they are never going to have anything to do with that company ever again. Like no
I
one's going
think
to look
Roman.
back
I
in.
think Roman is the happiest at the end of it.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
And
Yeah.
I think, well, obviously Kendall's not happy for obvious reasons. I don't think Kendall. I don't know if Kendall actually learns much. I think he might. Obviously, it's a gut punch, all these kind of things.
Yeah.
I think Kendall is sitting there, and I think in time, give it 6 months, give it a year, give it 3 years. Kendall's going to start something. He's going to go.
Sure.
He's going to make his own way,
Right.
which maybe is positive, right?
Yeah, in some ways, I feel like it's the ending Kendall needed, but not what he wanted. You know, I actually kind of agree. I think Shiv says at one point, like, it's, you know, this isn't good for you. Like being in this position, being a CEO, it does bad things for you. Like you become less of a, like, you get out of touch with reality, all these kinds of things, right? And so I think there's an argument for there. I think there's an argument that like that Kendall's entire identity was making his dad proud and being, you know, his dad's like the
They all
favorite
were,
son.
in a lot of ways.
But and Kendall was the favorite son for years. He was the only one working in the company. You know, Roman
Yeah.
and Shiv weren't involved. He was the one involved. He was the obvious successor, and like that was his identity, being dad's successor and being the one child that dad kind of brought into the business. He's the favored son, right? And
Yeah.
so like when that goes away, I mean, like, you know, he says I deserve this, I need this, you know, it obviously should be me, you know what I mean, those kinds of things.
Which is funny because I feel like, and I fall in this camp. I have protagonist syndrome
Sure.
where, you know, for me, I'm like, I think he is voicing Donovan in that moment. Because I'm like, yeah, you do, because you're the main guy. Like, to me,
Sure.
you're the main guy. And so I typically, even if the guys are not great, I'm like, I want the main guy to succeed.
Sure.
So like, even like Walter White, like I wanted Walter White to survive. Like I wanted him to
Sure.
get away with it, survive, get his penance, whatever. I still love that ending. I still think it's
Yeah.
amazing that Walter White dies and all these kind of things. Like it's a perfect ending to, you know, to anything. But I'm still fighting that inclination where I want my characters, my protagonists to get everything they want.
Sure. Yeah,
Um,
no, and you're right, because I think, you know, he is the obvious protagonist, and it is, I think, like I said, that complicated ending where he doesn't get what he wants. You know, he fails his external goal, but maybe is now on the path to like, you know, and I don't know, like the internal goal, I feel like, you know, Kindle, it shifted, but like, I feel like the internal goal, like we wanted him to have, was to like deal with his shit. You know what I mean? Like become a healthier person, because like, you know, beginning of the show, he's a recovered addict. He isn't using anymore. You know what I mean? This is the life that, you know, he had a hard time, but now he's good now. But then, you know, as soon as he gets rejected, then he dives right back into all his substance abuse issues. And that becomes a continual thing the rest of the show. He's always kind of in between using things and, you know, all that kind of stuff. so it is interesting. He fails his external goal, and in some ways, he gets set on a path where he might actually find himself someday. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah,
do think
someday.
I do feel like if Kindle was allowed to take over Waystar, I don't think he would have. I don't think that would have been a healthy decision for him. I think he would have been too obsessed with trying to replicate his dad's success and trying to be Logan Roy and not trying to be himself and finding his own way of doing
Sure.
things, that it may have been bad for him and even bad for the company. It could have ruined the company because he was trying to lead it, in a place of trying to just make his dad proud, who's dead now.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway,
that's why I think Roman is the happiest initially, because I think Roman is in that bar, and I think he has come to self-realization the quickest.
sure.
And I think he's in there, and he's kind of. I had to kind of watch the scene again, but I think he's like accepted his fate almost.
Yeah, I think in some ways Roman was the least emotionally involved in the company. Like, and even like he
He
was
was just
kind of
he-
getting dad's attention late. You know
Well,
what I mean?
he was way more invested in the father aspect and making his dad proud versus wanting power, and Kendall too. But Kendall genuinely wanted to like run a company.
Yeah. Well,
Roman was doing it mainly like, oh,
yes.
for daddy,
Daddy's-
but
yes.
also because like, oh, you don't think I can do it?
Sure.
That was his, that was
And
his two
man, I
reasons.
just want to shout out, Macaulay, or not Macaulay,
Phenomenal.
Kieran Culkin. Man, what a like,
Phenomenal.
he did such a good job with that character, and that's a character that you feel like you've known people like that, right? That are just like, have these kind of weird antisocial behaviors, but also can like be eccentric and kind of take control of a room in the right setting and in the right circumstances. And it's just that guy that says the most taboo shit just to like rile up people. That's just a part of his personality. But man, I thought he did such a fantastic job. Really, all of them did. Shiv was amazing.
Mhm.
I mean, like that's the thing, and I agree with you. Like overall, this show is one of the most consistently great shows I think that there is. Like, it doesn't, like, when I'm like, what was a weakness of the show? I'm like, I don't know. I would have a hard time finding a something that I would say, oh, that didn't really work like they wanted it to. Right? There may be decisions they make with the characters. I'm like, well, that sucks for them, or like maybe I was hoping for
Right.
this, right?
Right. That's the disappointment.
But with the decision, you're like, yeah, but I can't argue. That's a perfect ending, kind of thing, right? Like you like there's something poetically, bitter about it. It's like this poetically bitter. It's not poetically sweet. There's not a lot of even just sweetness. Like there isn't any kind of happy rainbow feelings given to you at the end for any of the characters. They, like you
They're
said,
also
even
all
if
terrible people. They're all terrible.
yeah, and realistic in that way, right? Like they're very.
There's not a single person I would
right.
want in my friends list. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
like
no,
I did-
absolutely,
yeah.
and they are like, I mean, they several times like show I feel like the show highlights their, how much they don't live in reality, like how much their wealth and their positions of power have like just kind of boxed them into these echo chambers where, they don't, like I said, they don't live in reality. They don't see things how they are. They have, this very skewed view to it. Yeah.
I have two things sticking in my mind, and maybe just because it's one of the last things in the show.
Yeah.
But for the first one is, I don't know why, but whenever they're in the boardroom at the end, and they're in like it's
Yeah.
Chev and Roman and Kendall, and they're kind of having like the final bout, the final fight, And I just kind of thought it was fascinating that Kendall says, "Oh, me killing somebody, that wasn't real." It was like him lying again is what I think that was kind of the final straw that fucked him. Like right,
It could
doesn't he reverse that? Like
No.
like
Whoa.
he admits to him in like the beginning of season 4 or in season 3 that he killed somebody, and it brings them
Yeah.
together, right? Like you had
Yeah.
that great scene where they're like
Yes.
on the water, or they're in the kitchen
Yes.
and they're like, drink
Well, and
the-
he's like
the
sitting
blender."
outside and just bawling, and they're like sitting in this like little street area, like
Yeah.
alley area. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
that was,
and
that was
so,
a
like,
great moment.
All that stuff is great, which makes you like, oh no, this is good. So like this isn't going to end well for everybody, because like if they're
Right.
bonding now and we have so much to go. But I just kind of felt like that moment when he's like, him lying is kind of ultimately him being truthful, but it's a really hard thing that could really send him to jail is what kind of freed him with the siblings, and then him lying about it.
Pretending it was a play.
a play,
yeah.
which is like fucking because it's like,
Yeah,
you
because
know,
they can tell it isn't. They know that like that wasn't, but the fact that he's willing to treat them like that, to like the fact that he's
Yeah.
willing to kind of
Well,
he
then
still
he's
sees
grabbing,
himself
right?
as
He's
better
just
than them.
like,
You know what I mean? And he's
yeah.
willing to do whatever it takes to like convince them of that. Yeah.
Do you, I guess another thing before I get to my last question, I also think I, I didn't realize who this was and that he had been in like Godzilla versus King Kong and the
Mm.
Northman. But then Alexander Skarsgård in the last season, season 3 and season 4, I was like, whenever it was rumored that he was going to be cast as Lex Luthor, in Superman Legacy, I was just like, please God, let him be Lex Luthor because he already almost was Lex
Oh yeah.
Luthor, and he was such a good villain. He was so fucking good, dude.
He was. I feel like he doesn't seem smart enough to me to be Lex Luthor. Like he comes
Well, I
across
mean,
as too much like he's got good business instincts, but he's also like not that intelligent about certain things. It feels like in the
he
show.
was. That's how it was written, right? I
Sure,
mean,
sure, sure. So it's
yeah.
just a little hard for me to make that transition. But yeah, I mean, I thought he was great. I thought who was the other guy that was the other like guy that Kendall and Logan went to see? It was Adrian Brody when he was on there.
Oh
He was
yeah,
that like other
it's so wild seeing him pop up in that too. I forgot about that.
yeah, 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 yeah. I did think they did a good job of playing these like ultra million billionaires that like truly live in a different reality than everyone else because of their wealth and like, but also just seems so like they don't like, you know, they like dressed in comfy shit, you know what I mean? But then they like
Yeah.
buy an island, you know what I mean? Like there's these kind of these like modern billionaires that like don't necessarily aren't like trying to flaunt it all the time, but
Right.
also just have all the money in the world and just do whatever they want in any time they want, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a good show. I guess overall, Daniel, was there someone in particular, if you could pick any of the children or Tom or whoever to get the company, did you have a favorite? Did you want none of them to get it? What was your thoughts? How it ended up?
Well, I mean, I think if I'm speaking as like who would have done the best job, I think Shiv probably would have done the best job. I think Shiv was the most kind of emotionally balanced of all of them, and I do think being in a role like that can, you have to be somewhat stable. And I also think even though she did have a lack of experience, she also had really good gut instincts. And like when Shiv kind of took control or like went into like go mode and like let's be a boss mode kind of shit, she handled shit and like she was convincing and she could get people on her team. And like I just think she actually had the best leadership qualities, even if she didn't have the most experience. I mean, I do think Tom was a great choice too. I mean, like he is just a yes man, and like he's not like truly a leader, but like he also is like probably the most stable person on the show, and some of them like he fucks up the least in terms of his own personal actions. Like
He kind of does, don't he? And he actually seems like he genuinely did care about Shiv, and like he was trying to make things work, and she was cheating on him.
He's not completely morally bankrupt, right? Like he has some sweetness, he has some love to him. Now he can be a dick, and like the way he 100%. Treats Greg sometimes, while hilarious, and like their conversations are probably some of the funniest moments in the show is them having conversations. I love the moment where Greg like reveals to Tom that he like kept some of the papers that they were purging as like leverage. He's like, Gregory Hurd, he's like this, like, you son of a bitch, you're learning, like this, like kind of like he's impressed, but he's also like a little scared, and like, I just thought those kind of moments were just like,
well, I think I think obviously he was impressed. I think in that particular thing too, it's like he has to still like in his mind, he has to play that he's like, oh, you're so like because if he's fucked. You know what I'm saying? So
exactly. This guy has a leverage on him, and so it's this wonderful scene where he's like, he always has these great heel turns where he's like, I'm just kidding, or like, he's like he like very easily like will change paces, and man, I loved him and Greg. They were just
well, it was even Tom. I think was in season 3, right? Tom talks to Roy and or Logan, I mean, and isn't that like the one who basically backstabs Shiv in the back, or all of them maybe at the end of season 3?
Yeah, I'm
'Cause
trying to remember. Yeah.
that's the final shot. I think it's Tom looking at them or whatever, and it's kind of like,
Yes,
who is
no,
the
no, no.
guy?
It's yes, it's into season 3 because like they're trying to sell and the kids are going to try to block it, but then
Right.
Tom tells Logan, and so he renegotiates like the divorce settlement with the kid's mom, and that's
Right.
how he like takes away their power to do that, right? And Tom is the one that gave him the heads up so he could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because Shiv thought she was trusting him, and then yeah, no,
And
absolutely, yeah. So he was.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah. So he could be cold blooded, right? Like he could, and to a degree, like
He
he
deserved
would
it.
have never made that decision if like their marriage had been different, if their marriage had been like
100%.
healthy and happy. Like this was more of a response to the betrayal he felt in his marriage than it had anything to do with like business and wanting to have control of the company. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, anything in life, any stories about this, ultimately, but I think that shows ultimately like if this didn't happen, then this bad thing wouldn't have happened.
No,
That's what that
it's
show
definitely a
is.
domino effect show, right? Like it just
Yeah.
it's a very like I think that's part of what keeps it gripping. It's so cause and effect. Like you never know what the actions of this character will lead to either way, you know. Last
Yeah.
things I just want to shout out one of my favorite moments of the show is definitely Kendall's heel turn. I think it's the end of season 2 when he's like going to a press conference to basically like admit fault to like go
Oh.
to jail. Like they
He's
said,
the fall guy, yeah.
he's gonna be the fall guy, and then he just I didn't see it coming at all.
So
You know what I
good.
mean, because Kendall's been this just kind of dejected.
I did. I saw it coming.
stooge
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
whole season. And it like seems like he's lost all will to fight at all. And then just at that last moment, he just flips it. And I love the moment when like it goes to Logan, and Logan's kind of impressed.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Logan's kind of like, that was a good move. Like that was
Yeah.
that was kind of a Logan move. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like I love, and then that next season is just like, shit's on fire and everyone, it's like Kendall versus
Yeah.
everyone. But
he's
it's
getting
Kendall
in the
versus
car, he's
everyone.
calling people. It's so good, dude.
It's
I would-
Kendall,
I would
it's
rewatch
Kendall
that.
versus everyone, but like they're not allowed to be that publicly. They're not
Yeah.
they're not allowed to just be like, this guy's an idiot, he's lying. If they have to be all like, well, we're going to look into these very serious allegations. You know what I mean? So it's this wonderful like PR campaign mixed with this behind the scenes like bloodlust of everyone hating each other now. I don't know. It's just
No, dude, it's phenomenal. I mean, again, just talking to you about it, maybe I can convince Kimberly to start it over with me because it's good.
It is.
It's only downside too is like I can see if someone's watching the first couple episodes how it could feel kind of slow and how maybe it's
Sure.
kind of like you're just getting to know these characters, but just trust me on this, and I think you'll agree.
Yeah.
Just stick with it a little bit and just kind of go along for the ride, and it gets crazy and it
Yeah.
gets fun. It's fun. It's fun.
And the thing is, the writing is phenomenal from beginning to. I mean, it is. This is, to me, this is the best. I mean, I don't see how writing. This couldn't have been written better, right? Like that's how it feels. Like it was never like, and that's the thing that, man, especially dialogue writing, that will just throw me out of a show or a movie if it's just really clunky and it's like no one in real life ever talks like this. Like that's just difficult for me to get over. And this is like the exact opposite. This is like everyone is so real. The acting is perfect. The lines they're giving is perfect. And it's just, man, it was a tour de force of acting and writing. Like especially because this isn't an action show. There are no chase sequences. There's no blood or like gore or like boobs or anything. This is just like interpersonal family drama written to perfection and acted to perfection and kind of set inside this like, multi-billion dollar like dynasty. And it's just, man, it's like you said, it's I can't find a flaw. It's just kind of perfect.
Yeah, and it's written in I said this earlier in the episode, but Jesse Armstrong, and he won every year that the shows, because there's been some gaps, and also because of the pandemic, all these other things. He's won Best Writing Emmys, and he also won an Oscar for Best Adapted. I think he co-wrote a screenplay 2009 or something. So he's won an Oscar for writing. He's won 3 Emmys, and I think he's up this year for Best Writing also for season 4. And which is kind of odd because Last of Us and that's competing against each other. I don't think The Last of Us. As much as I like The Last of Us, it's not.
It's a different
it's not-
caliber.
It's not
I mean,
this.
it's Yeah, and some of that is to a degree. It's like the acting's
the-
great in The Last of Us.
Well,
The
it's just the-
writing's really good. It's just
Yeah, it's just a show, the kind of show that it just doesn't
Yes.
lend itself to. I mean, this book has to be 3 times thicker, like the screenplay book, than the
Yeah.
Last of Us screenplay, and
Right,
it's got
and-
as many episodes and as
Yeah.
much time. You know what I'm saying? So
No, yeah, I get it, and I think even though I love The Last of Us, there I can point out to some, at least for me, some flaws, some things that they tried and missed for me, and I think I can't. Again, I think it's a testament to the show, and to a degree, it's a testament to the length. It was short and sweet, 4 seasons in and out. But man, it's hard to think of anything where whatever they were intending to do didn't just nail it. You know what I mean?
yeah, just to kind of end here with our listeners, the 75th primetime Emmys are coming up in just a few short weeks, and Succession season 4 has tied with its own record from the previous year, season 3, for most nominations ever for a TV show at 27 nominations.
Wow.
And so it's again, it is against The Last of Us and a few other things, but like I think it has 3 nominations for outstanding lead for obviously
Yeah.
Shiv, Kendall, and Roman, and it's pretty wild. So like, I mean,
Yeah.
it deserves
I was
it.
thinking too, like the production budget was probably pretty modest. I mean, all you need is like some mansions. You need some corporate ass, big ass buildings, but like all that's fairly reasonable to rent. Like versus like building sets or like shooting on a green screen set where everything is like thousands of dollars to VFX. Like relatively, I mean, like you got to get a helicopter, but how easy is it for big productions to get a helicopter? I mean, most of them use it for just equipment sometimes. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
it's not like, it's like it's still big budget shit. I mean, they're renting probably the nicest skyscrapers in New York to sometimes shoot in, but compared to like Game of Thrones, you know what I mean? Where like they're having to create a fantasy world with the production design. They didn't really have, I mean, like the set dressing and the production design wasn't, they didn't have to do too much like in compared to some of these bigger shows. But yeah, anyway.
No, you're 100% right. And just
Let
real
them
quick,
give all
let's
the
just-
money to the writers, I guess.
Well, I think it's worth it when you look at the 27 nominations for, that's like even if you don't make your money back on merchandising or ratings or subscribers, almost any company I think can always justify the means when they are winning the big awards at the end of the year.
Yeah. Well, and
Because
to some degree, it's
ultimately,
this like it's this testament to like I don't know, like in some ways it's a modest idea, but just with impeccable writing and acting. It's like we're gonna film a show about a family that's super rich and that like basically like owns a news company like Murdoch's and the Foxes, and it's just gonna be them like figuring out who's next. Like it's not an incredibly ambitious idea necessarily compared to like Game of Thrones or I don't know, The Last of Us, which is a much more like, post-apocalyptic Earth, all this kind of stuff. And maybe that just lends it to like the writing and the acting just really standing out. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, fantastic show. Succession is up there with the Mount Rushmore of HBO shows, for sure. So definitely check it out if you haven't yet.
Well, let me just crunch the numbers for you real quick.
Yeah.
So The Last of Us season 1, it's 9 episodes. The budget for each episode is between 10 to 15 million. So we can roughly say about 105 million.
Yeah.
The last season of Game of Thrones was also $100 million, over $100 million. So it was a $10 million budget per episode. So it's the same as The Last of Us, which is kind of crazy because it's like Game of Thrones, I feel like it's much more shit going on in The Last of Us.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so.
Succession, 10 episodes again, budget was $90 million per season.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Crazy.
I mean, I guess those acting contracts were just fat. I mean,
But that's per season. So it's like, I mean, granted,
90 million per season. I mean, that's
this may not be like indicative or 100% correct, but you got to also think that the actors are going to be getting pay bumps every year. And like,
you're right. And they are the show, right? So they're getting big pay bumps. I mean, to a degree, I mean, what's his name? The guy that plays Kendall Roy. I can't think of his name right now. He's been in stuff.
Brian Cox. Yeah, he's fantastic.
I mean, Brian Cox has had a very successful career before this.
He's a huge actor. Yeah.
And he's always, he's typecasted as a villain a lot, but he's been in tons and
Yeah.
tons and tons of movies and has done like fantastic in all of them.
Yeah,
So
he's
this-
Wolverine's daddy.
But
you
I
know,
mean,
so-
Kieran Culkin there's a before and after Succession for his career, right? The same for Shiv's actor.
was there a before? I mean, like for
Yeah,
any of these guys,
he was in Scott Pilgrim. You know, he was in some stuff.
sure.
You know, but the offers he's going to be getting after Succession are going to just be night and day. Same for really all the kids. Like I mean, Shiv's actor, I have no idea. I've never seen her in anything before this. You know what I mean? I know Kendall Roy. What's the actor's name? He's been in quite a bit. It's just
He's been in some stuff, but this is kind of like a situation where I think it's again very comparable to Bryan Cranston, Walter
Jeremy
White
Strong.
character,
Yeah.
where it's kind of like Bryan Cranston will continue to work, he'll continue to do some amazing roles, but Bryan Cranston will never get to play a character like Walter White probably ever again.
Man, yeah, I feel like which is Jeremy Strong. He's so young, and I feel like he feels like a character that could come out of this, and I mean, like he could play a Lex Luthor, honestly. Like he could do I think a great Lex Luthor, and a little bit younger of one. But I mean, he was in, he had a decent role in The Big Short.
He's
You know
older
what I
now,
mean?
though. I mean, he's
45,
yeah.
But he doesn't look that old. I
Really,
think.
he looks older to me than 45. Maybe it's right. Maybe it's right. I think in some of the behind the scenes stuff, he has his head shaved, and so I was always like, man, it makes you look older, in your head.
But I mean,
shaved.
Sarah Snook, who played Shiv, I mean, she's
You like Shiv. I can tell you like Shiv.
I think she was incredible. No, I think she was one of the best characters. I mean, but before this, she was in, Predestination, Run Rabbit Run, Jezebel, Winchester. I don't know any of these movies. I've never heard of any of them. Maybe
Who do
the
you think
Predestination,
wins?
because that's Ethan Hawke.
Between those three, who do you think wins? I think it's those three. I assume it's those three that are nominated.
Yeah, I feel like it might go to Jeremy Strong because I don't think he's won anything yet for it. I think the others maybe have. So there may
Really?
be this kind of like he finally deserves it, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King situation.
I don't know, it made me laugh. I don't know why.
You know what I mean? Like they
Yeah, I
don't
mean,
really
you're
win
right.
everything, and then the
It's-
last one they just give them all of them. They just give them all the awards.
Yeah, this show deserves it. And again, this is another reason why we've said it before. We're going to say it again today, listeners. You can't beat HBO. Like they now have merged with other companies, or might be merging again. And so like their overall catalog may look diluted in some ways,
Yeah.
but when HBO makes a show, they
Right.
typically knock it out. I feel like I hear more about those shows than I hear other people's shows. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, he won in 2021 or 2022. He won Outstanding Performance by an Ensemble in a Drama Series from Screen Actors Guild. He won Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series in the Primetime Emmy Awards. Is that different than just Emmy Awards? Probably not. So he has won one Emmy for Succession, Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama for season 1, I think.
Yeah, Cox and Strong received the Golden Globe for Best Actor. Yeah, the Golden Globe is an Emmy. That's what that is.
Okay, so the Golden Globe, he has not won a Golden Globe yet for it. So
Wait, is it? Am I wrong here?
I don't know.
No. The Golden Globes are by the. Wait, no, that's right. Yeah. All right, I'm looking.
I
No,
think
the Golden
Primetime
Globes are.
Emmy Awards.
They're different. Yeah, the Golden Globes are by the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. That's what that is.
Yes.
Yeah. Which that is
Bottom
up for
handful, right?
debate.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
From what I understand, anyway. Did you lead me for a second?
I just
Here we go.
clicked the
Primetime
camera off
Emmy
button.
for us. Yeah, so here we go. Oh, yep. Sorry, listeners. I am doing some light research. Oh God. That's not what I wanted. Well, doesn't really tell me things. Alrighty. Well, anyway. Oh, Andor's nominated for. Oh, let's just real quick. Here's what's nominated: Andor, Better Call Saul, The Crown, House of the Dragon. Really, The House of the Dragon, The Last of Us, Succession, The White Lotus, and Yellow Jackets.
I liked House of Dragon.
No, I did too, but I guess
Yellow Jackets is nominated. Is that what you said?
yeah, it is. Time-wise, I was like, how's House of the Dragon nominated? Maybe it was bleeding over into 2024. I don't know. That's not true. I mean, That was last year, right?
I-
2020.
Honestly, I don't know.
I don't
thought
either.
it was. I thought you were right, but maybe it wasn't.
I'm pretty
Maybe
sure it
this
is.
year.
Anyway, yeah, Yellow Jackets, which is interesting.
I don't
I
know.
mean, I like it. I mean, Kenley likes it a lot. You
It's
know,
not. Have y'all gotten through season 2 yet?
yeah, we've seen everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't watched
Yeah,
The White Lotus.
It's okay. Catherine watched that. She liked it a lot.
I wonder if they Better Call Saul. Was that this year?
Yeah. Man,
I
was
don't
it?
know. I guess we should do this prime time. Sorry, listeners. We're fixing to wrap this up, but bear with us.
No, that was last year, 2022.
Okay, so it's like Wikipedia's wrong then, people, because they're not being truthful. Oh, maybe it
Were you
was
reading last year's?
it's 2023. Okay, yeah, I'm being dumb.
Yeah. No, it's okay.
Being
'Cause they'll
dumb.
do the 2024 ones.
Yeah,
January, February, or
yeah.
whatever.
So it's my fault. I just want to see what was nominated for. Oh God. Here we go. Yeah, the 75th. Here we go. All nominees. Barry is nominated. Outstanding comedy. Okay, so here we go. Damn, there's a lot of fucking okay, Jason Segel's nominated. Wait, oh, it's God dang, there's so many freaking awards, dude. Like so many.
Mm-hmm.
There's lead actor for comedy, lead actor for drama. So let's just say, I mean, drama series is the one you want. That's the one. That's the main one. So Andor is nominated. Wait, this can't be true. This can't be correct, Daniel.
Maybe you're getting from a bad source.
I know I'm on the website.
Oh, well, maybe they don't update their website.
2024 Emmy nominations. Okay, here we go. Lead actress. Yep, Shiv is nominated. Yeah, they're all nominated. Yep. Alrighty, this is it. This can't be good for the listeners. They probably dropped out already. Daniel, how can our remaining listeners write into us?
Listeners, if you're still here, write into bit.ly/241mail and let us know what you think of Succession. I know we're a little late to the game, to the conversation, but it's a damn good show. And you know what? It's never a bad time to talk about a damn good show. bit.ly/241mail.
All right, here's something interesting, Daniel. So Logan, Roy, and Kendall are all three nominated for Best Actor in a drama series.
Mm.
And then also Shiv is nominated. So there's 4 nominations there for
Yeah, that makes
acting.
sense.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah, that's pretty wild. And listeners, if you can't find us at our bit.ly, you can always find us in the comment section below, youtube.com/241studios. It's the best place to consume all the content. And if you didn't know, you probably didn't. We are sponsored by Kapow Comics. Find them at 2020 or what's it? 4047 Eastkill Avenue, 2047 Eastkill Avenue. I forgot, Daniel.
Yeah, that sounds right.
4047 Eastkill Avenue, Sherwood, Arkansas. Who knows, guys? Clearly, I'm
Google it,
tired.
guys. Google it.
Google Kapow Comics. Gave them one more plug this episode because why not? We're ending 2023 with Succession. Guys, we'll see you in the new year with episode 190 as we go on the road to episode 200. And I'm super excited about it. Daniel, I'll catch you in the new year.
Peace.
My name is Almond Thompson,
I'm Daniel Wingfield.
and we have spoken.